Congressman William Timmons, the Republican from South Carolina, is sponsoring legislation right now. It's a resolution. It doesn't have the force of law because it involves the Supreme Court. And while Congress can tell the Supreme Court what to do, it's clearly laid out in Article 3, Section 2, that Congress shall regulate and provide exceptions to what the Supreme Court can do and rule on. Nonetheless, this is advisory, and basically it's a resolution that probably all the Republicans are going to vote for this week. In fact, expect to hear more about it, asking the Supreme Court to overturn Trump's conviction in New York by Alvin Bragg, in Judge Juan Merchan's courtroom, and because they're just really ripped up about their orange god is now a convicted felon with 34 felony convictions on his record, and he's out on parole right now. I mean, he hasn't even been sentenced yet. That's in 2 weeks or 3 weeks. July 7th, I think, is the date that they've scheduled for the sentencing. Maybe July 11th. Sorry, I'm not exactly certain. You can look it up. But he's sponsoring this resolution, and he says this would allow the president. Oh, he's also sponsoring a piece of legislation that would allow the president to move any case out of state court into federal court. And it's too late for that for Trump. But this could provide an end run around Fani Willis's prosecution of Trump and the other phony electors down in Georgia, which has been put on indefinite hold, again in this case by Scott McAfee and by the Republican, Judiciary Commission, I believe it is, in the state of Georgia, as they investigate Fani Willis and her investigation of Trump. Timmons' 7-page resolution argues that procedural elements of the Trump case raise constitutional questions that warrant such intervention, along with, quote, its unprecedented nature and overwhelming public interest. And again, yes, it's unprecedented. And there is an overwhelming amount of interest in it. But, hey, Trump, if you don't want to go to prison, don't commit crimes. I mean, this is pretty straightforward stuff. The court should act with all, he writes, the court should act with all deliberate speed and possible urgency so voters can make informed decisions about the upcoming presidential election. Right. Trump, Johnson, and Representative Byron Donalds, Republican from Florida, who's a potential vice presidential candidate, have all called for the Supreme Court to intervene. Do you think the Supreme Court's going to intervene? I am skeptical, shall we say, even in the face of a resolution. I think they would love to. I mean, they've already intervened in the case down in Florida by giving Trump almost a 1-year delay. It was in December of last year. What is that? It's a 7-month delay now, 8-month delay. It was in December of last year that Jack Smith asked the Supreme Court to pick up this case and rule on it within a month. And they said, no, we'll take our time. We're going to hear arguments in April, at the very last day of our term. And then we'll give you the decision maybe in June, maybe in July, maybe in September, August, October, November. I don't know when we're going to get around to it. Because, see, I'm convinced that Sam Alito is the guy who's holding this up. Could be Thomas, too. But John Roberts is going to try and get every single one of the justices on board to vote yes or no and write an opinion. And all Thomas and Alito have to do to give Trump what he wants, which is delay, so that this trial will not happen before the election. And that's going to be a real tough decision for Tanya Chutkan, for Judge Chutkan. But all they need to do is just delay it to the point where, she can't hold the trial. She has said that the trial will take 3 months. So if you work back from the 1st of November, that means October, September, and August, right? So if the Supreme Court waits until the last week of July or the first week of August, which is entirely possible, they can do that. There is nothing that requires them to release a decision now. If they wait until then there's literally no way that the trial can happen before the election. Or can have completed itself before the election. And frankly, I think that they're pretty much to that point right now. I mean, basically, you know, nothing would begin until, even if they handed down the decision this week. Keep in mind, the debate is on Thursday. And it's possible that a decision comes down Thursday, which could really scramble the debate. Thursday and Friday are the days that they've been releasing their decisions. But, you know, Trump has already won in this case. It sure looks like to me, anyway. I mean, I'll be astonished if Judge Chutkan can move this thing up and make it happen faster. And then, of course, you know, all they have to do once she starts the trial again is just come up with some other BS appeal to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court will say, yeah, sure, we'll listen to that. And boom, we're in the middle of next year. I mean, this is exactly what's going down in Florida, where Judge Luce Cannon is doing everything she can to give Trump all the delays he wants. You know, hearing all these absurd motions. Hunter Biden, his lawyer tried that trick, saying, the special counsel is not legitimate. And the court said, what are you kidding?